Hello and welcome to Staying Alive. It's a panel show about our ageing community. I'm David Hunt, and on the panel today we have Leanne, we've got Greg, and we've got Gordon. Now these people have got so much experience in so many walks of life. Greg, what do you do?
Head the Anti-Violence Project, and I'm also a social worker and a counsellor in community and private life.
Yeah, you're a very busy man.
Yeah.
Leanne?
I'm the General Manager at Switchboard, which is a peer-based telephone counselling and referral service.
And you're just getting bigger and bigger with all the stuff you're doing these days.
Yeah, our new service, which is out and about, which is our volunteers visiting older people. So, yeah, we're pretty busy.
And Gordon?
Yes.
Volunteer extraordinaire?
Not really.
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Come
yes,
on,
you
tell us
are.
what you do.
Joy, the Victorian AIDS Council, the Malvern Artists Society, and a few other places, yeah.
And Vintage Men?
Oh, Vintage Men, yeah.
Vintage Men, which you're secretary, is that right?
Secretary Treasurer.
Right, okay. Tell us a little bit about Vintage Men. What is it?
Well, it's a group for older gay and bisexual men. It's a sport and social group. It's for the men and their partners. We have no age limit except that they have to be over 18 if you have got a very young partner.
Right. How often do you meet?
Once a week, every Monday night.
Right. Okay. And so if people want to get
Thursday lunches as well.
Right. Oh, every week?
Every week, Thursday lunches at different places. Yes.
Okay. And do you, how do you get involved? Do you have a website?
We have a website.
Yep.
Yes. It's you just have to Google it. I can't remember it offhand. It's vintagemen.org.au, I think it is.
Okay, but if you just Google you'll
it's
find
on
it.
Google, yeah.
Okay, so today's topic that we're going to talk about is our government, local and federally, doing enough for our community? So, Greg, let's start with you this time.
It's a really interesting question. A lot of work has been done in safe schools, for example, protecting kids in schools and spreading that around the state, and plaudits to the previous Liberal government, and good on you, Daniel Andrews, and your new government for expanding it statewide.
Yep. What
happens when kids, though, go home at night? They're merging back from school into a homophobic society where it really is unsafe in many places, in many ways for people, and there is no government policy. There's no social policy of any government in this country dealing with changing society in a meaningful way. So there's a big hole, a big gap. And the answer to your question is no, they're not doing enough. We need some work now about making it safe for kids to return to their homes, to their streets, to society at night.
Mm. Leanne, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, going on from what Greg was just saying, I was giving a presentation at a youth mental health service last week, and it's a mainstream service, and they were saying, well, are they specialist LGBTI services, mental health services? And they're not, apart from Drummond Street, Switchboard, which does volunteer counselling, the AIDS Council, which does counselling. There's not really a place, particularly for families, where people can deal with mental health issues, the stress and strains of just being in a family unit, coming out, understanding that sort of stuff. So particularly I think that's a need.
Gordon? Because you're involved with the VAC, aren't you?
Yes, with the VAC, yes. They're funded by the government, of course, which is what they need. And but there is a problem at the moment with funding, apparently, for some certain parts of their pronto, I think, is one of the things that they're not looking to cutting back on or something or other that I was reading the other day about. And it's a very hard thing to do because the government are basically in a bind. You know, they certainly have a certain amount of money to spend, but they don't seem to be spending it on the right things as far as I'm concerned. They're not spending it to help the actual people that are really needing it.
And is that the fault of the organisations within our community that want to take every cent they can get hold of, but they're not actually doing the right thing with that money?
Well, it could be. Although most of the gay groups that I've been associated with are doing everything they can to make every penny that they get go as far as it will possibly go, you know. So I don't think there's that problem. I think when you get the money, you know that you've got it and you've got to spend it wisely.
I think also the way that the grant funding's set up is that you're competitive. You're competing with each other.
Yes.
So there's not really that much in terms of collaboration or across and saying, well, let's share some resources and actually work together and share our expertise to get things done. Plus, it's short-lived. I mean, you know, one of our major projects, it was 2 years. It finishes, you know, the end of this financial year, and you never know until the last minute if it's going to be refunded.
Not just short-lived. I mean, I think of Jamie Gardner, one of the elder statesmen of our community. Jamie Gardner's been around for 40 years pushing for rights and a whole range of issues. He says there's a deficit. For 40 years, we've missed out being served by governments. The rest of the community's been served in a range of ways. There's this deficit. They need to overcompensate for that 40-year deficit by putting a huge bucket of funds in dealing with mental health, dealing with a whole range of issues, and to compensate for the lack of work for 30 to 40 years. And until they do that, we can never get over that line and get ahead.
Because one of the
We're
big
behind.
things, of course, is gay and lesbian health. Not mental health, but just ordinary
physical health. Yeah.
general health for gay and lesbian people and bisexual and transgender people as well. The whole community. There's not enough money seems to be going into our area for where we would need it. I was at the ageing conference the end of last year, and it was quite interesting the way that they're trying to work out how to make sure that people that go into sort of, say, nursing homes are looked after properly by the staff. And that comes with training. So whether they get the training, it has to take money to train people. You know?
There is training going on.
There is training going
that's
on.
That's been a very new thing,
it's
and
a
the
new
uptake's
area.
not a lot.
Yeah.
And now with the government, this current federal government, as you're like saying, okay, if you're fairly well off, we're going to cut any support for you when you're ageing. Now that's all very, like a good idea in one respect, but it is that infrastructure that sometimes you need, and you need that support. Like these two friends of mine, like one that's just died. If it wasn't for that, like having the pension card because she was over 65, to all the treatment that she needed, but because she was so sick. So, yeah.
I think sometimes too that governments like simple solutions to complex issues. So for a treasurer or whoever, a finance department to say, let's just change this rule for this, they actually don't think through all the implications of it. And I mean, the classic example is a few years ago when Centrelink was acknowledging same-sex couples.
Yep.
That had a huge detrimental effect, not only on income, but on the pressures on couples as well. So it wasn't really equality. I think they thought, oh, that sounds good. So.
Look, there's so much more we could talk about around this topic, but unfortunately we've run out of time. So thanks for watching, and we've got to thank Greg, Leanne and Gordon. So we'll see you soon on Staying Alive.